This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. It's Monday. That means that John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette is in studio, and he's a soft-spoken guy, unlike your Democrat-Gazette compadre, Rex Nelson, whom you tweeted about this weekend.
I made I think, a funny, good-natured tweet about Rex has an ability both to enunciate and to boom.
Project.
Yes. There was this time when he and I were doing the public radio political analysis, and people were saying they couldn't hear me, but they could hear him. It was like he was booming, and it was like an infant gurgling when I was speaking. And it turned out that the late Ron Breeding was trying to turn up my volume and turn down Rex's, but all night was doing the opposite. So it was an unfortunate. It's the only time public radio has ever turned down the liberal and turned up the conservative.
There you go.
That's an old shtick he and I've done.
It's good there, right there. So they've got Tom Cotton on this weekend or this week. So
doing
public radio.
Radio?
Yeah, they'll get my Tom Cotton interview today. So they'll get their fair share of conservatism.
Yeah, they'll get about a decade's worth in 10 minutes.
Coercive diplomacy, John. Coercive
Right.
diplomacy.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about general improvement funds, GIF, as we refer them to. The Arkansas Supreme Court has ruled it unconstitutional again in Arkansas. Does this give the Arkansas legislature cover to kill this once and for all, or do you think they find another workaround?
Well, to be clear, and I know you want to be precise, and you seldom are imprecise, but I think the Supreme Court has declared unconstitutional a way they were taking surplus funds and spending it, rather than the concept. I think that's fair to say.
That is true. That is much more accurate.
This idea of taking money and essentially funneling, and I use the word laundering it through the planning and development districts, as if it's the planning and development district money to distribute, when there's an unwritten understanding that it's the legislator's money and they will dictate how it's used. That violates the Constitution, and it violates the principle that the legislature appropriates, but the executive branch executes and administers the spending. I was driving through Southwest Arkansas over the weekend. Where a lot of my family's from. I was speaking to the Howard County Democrats, and I went through small town after small town, turned off the interstate and went that way. And the activity I saw, and the finest structures I saw in a lot of these little towns, were either the community center or the volunteer fire department. They seem to have some very nice, well-equipped volunteer fire departments, and that's general improvement money. These, without home rule and without capital in these small towns, they need state help. And it is a legitimate state purpose to help provide those things to poor local rural communities. Fire protection is an important thing.
Helps lower the insurance ratings, brings down the cost.
And it's a legitimate state purpose. What they've got to do, they can do it if they have the discipline. They can do it legally by setting up some state agency, Office of Local Partnership within DFNA, setting up a rigorous application process, an objective grading process, approving, and I think requiring a match. I think local communities ought to ante up 3%, 5%, something, and then letting the governor pick from the top of the list as surplus funds become available and let the legislature review it, not approve it, that'd be illegal, but review it. It can be done. And I'm going to outline that in a column tomorrow.
All right.
So I'm always trying to be constructive. It'd be easy just to criticize, but I'm trying to be constructive.
The constructive, not destructive, John Brummett.
Well, I can be both. I think.
All right, another recent column of yours, I believe it was your Sunday column, talked about the National Rifle Association, their support for bump stock banning bump stocks. You say it's disingenuous. Tell me why.
Well, it's disingenuous. It's also very smart. Basically, do you know there's a gun rights group to the right of the NRA?
I did not until I read your column.
The Gun Owners of America, they make the NRA seem moderate. And the Gun Owners of America had said, no, we'll tolerate no regulation tightening of these bump stocks. Gun rights are gun rights. And the NRA, you and I talked last week, I think, how a Politico story, how they'll go dark for a few days after an incident like this and survey the landscape and figure out what to do.
I'm glad you were listening to me.
Of course I was listening. What they did was politically, a great political finesse. They said, we believe that the bump stocks need to be more tightly regulated. By saying they need to be more tightly regulated, they took it out of legislative hands, spared if they can get that done, spared Republicans from having to cast a vote that they might feel obliged, which is to ban these things, but get crossways with the gun owners of America and get some bad mailers and bad grades back home. So the NRA said, we can be handled in a regulatory manner. At the same time, the real thing we need to do, they said, is pass our reciprocity bill so you can carry your concealed weapons from one that allows it to one that doesn't. Whenever the NRA appears to concede, what they will in fact be doing is putting more guns in more holsters in more places.
Your contention.
Well,
which is fact-based based on your research.
Okay, I mean, I just come.
There'll be some that will argue against you on that.
But I'm praising their intelligence and their trickiness and their effectiveness. But here's what's going to happen. The NRA, by trying to spare a legislative vote on this and trying to do it administratively, got in crossways with Dianne Feinstein. He wants to put in the bill and says it has to be done by legislation. They're going to end up arguing, and we're not going to do anything, even though there is popular will and legislative will to at least say, no, you can't turn your semi-automatic into an automatic. I mean, the will is there, but Republicans in Congress don't want to have to vote for it. Feinstein doesn't want to consent merely to a regulatory fix, which she considers inadequate. And because of our political dysfunction, again, we'll probably end up with nothing. And guys like this monster in Vegas will continue to have the opportunity to attach this thing to their guns and kill more people. That's what's wrong with it's not just that we're polarized culturally, it's that we break down in these legislative procedures with 3 or 4 angles coming together and eliminating any ability to get anything done. I hope that doesn't happen, but I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the framework for it here.
And the other side can't let the other side get a victory.
Right.
Is kind of what it comes down to.
So a thing that they could do if they'd just all sit down and shut up, they won't do because of the competing angles, not because of the substance, not because of the public interest, but because of the competing angles.
It's frustrating.
It is.
It's frustrating to me.
Yeah.
I think it is to a lot of people. All right, let's take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and talk about some more dysfunctional government.
This program?
And some football.
Oh, good.
How about that?
Good.
I got to get a football
That was
fix in for
excellent.
you.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
I interrupted you. That was good.
We're back with more John Brummett right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, let's turn our attention to, hey, Donald Trump tweeted over the weekend, just like you tweeted, but he tweeted differently.
No, not just like. Not just like.
With the same amount of frequency, I would say. Maybe not the same amount of disruption.
Well.
But he takes after Tennessee Senator Bob Corker, head of the Foreign Relations Committee. He is retiring, not running for a third term. Trump taunts him. Corker comes back and declares that the White House is an adult daycare and someone obviously missed their shift. This is candor from Senator Corker, is it not? Now that he doesn't have the trappings of having to watch what he says because he's not running for re-election.
It's jarring. It's jarring in a strange way because what Corker said, all of us who keep up, and many who only moderately keep up, knew this was the case. You had that Trump is a loose cannon given to wild, indiscreet action, and the generals, Kelly, the chief of staff, Mattis, McMaster, basically, and others, their job is to contain him. The word that Corker used. Corker, do you remember when Corker was like one of Trump's best guys and was considered as his running mate and was one of the early people, not as early as Jeff Sessions, but early to say, we can work with this guy, and I'd like to help him. So by the fact that he's leaving, and by the fact that Trump just hauled off out of the blue and decided to go after him as a coward for not having the guts to run, when he will need his vote for whatever health and tax reform stuff.
All of that stuff, yeah. Not to mention foreign relations.
And he's chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, which is what J. William Fulbright used to be, which is a big deal in terms of international diplomacy. And all this trouble with Tillerson enters into this whole foreign relations
You got Russiagate too.
Yes. So Corker could have just been discreet like everyone else and just shaking his head and made some mild comment, but he shot back in kind, and he didn't just get even, he got ahead. We had the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee saying the president is a celebrity, a reality TV celebrity, is of that culture. He is a reckless, wild, out of control man. He is a child. And he is an existential threat to World War III, except that so far every day they're containing him, meaning that. And those of us who believe that to be true, and worry about Trump, we find ourselves sort of endorsing a modified coup. And by a modified coup, I mean military people taking charge, not by overthrowing him, just sort of trying to keep him on a leash. When you have the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee saying, this guy could start World War III unless the adults can handle him every day, what a remarkable thing to have happen in American political history.
But we're not surprised. We knew this coming into the election. America elected this guy president knowing that he was a loose cannon and that he had this potential for disaster. They wanted it.
His voters, many did.
The majority of the Electoral College voters wanted it.
Let's not get into that, but that's where the majority of the people wanted it. But you know, the people outside of California, well, never mind. Don't get, forgive me. Yes, there is some. The American system was designed not to get things done rashly. The processes are ponderous. They've been made even more so by the compounding dysfunction to which I referred in our last segment. As it happens in regard to Trump, it is a good thing that there are systems, processes in place, so that I think there's an understanding, and I'm advocating it. I'm telling people, don't worry about what this guy says. It doesn't matter. Sit around in fear about what he might do, yes, but don't worry about what he says because it doesn't matter. But I think there is a broad understanding among the public, even among people who voted for him. He's a little bit nuts, but it looks like it's okay. It turns out a president can be that way. And I think many of them will look back and look at the Vietnam series on AETN and look at Watergate and think, we've had like presidents out of control before. The country is bigger and stronger than that. But the control, the reason I call it a modified coup is people, left of center people like me who might not normally say, go Marine General, go. We're saying, take charge. Thank goodness you're there. It's unlike anything we've encountered. And so far, it's working in a way because the country we're okay for the moment.
Economy's doing well.
The economy's doing well. The stock market's up. And we're conditioning ourselves to listen to behold what our president says and pay no attention to it. And it's all, for the moment, working. Even as the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee said, there's a threat of World War III, and they got to contain him every day. We're sort of going, okay, keep containing him, and let that stock market go up.
Aren't you glad to be alive and a witness to history?
Well, I'm glad to be alive.
Okay.
We can agree on that.
I'm going to give you a choice on the last question here, last topic here. We can go NFL football. So you got Vice President Pence and all of this rigmarole, or you can go Razorback football. So we've got publicity stunt versus public humiliation. Which do you prefer?
You know I like to talk about both. Okay. What a childish stunt by Trump and Pence just to go do that put-up deal. But the players need to quit inviting this trouble. However, let's talk about the Razorbacks.
Let's do
Fair
that.
enough?
Fair enough. All right.
What
We got
about 'em?
Alabama and Auburn coming up.
Did
And
you
we
see
are
my
on-
tweet on the Alabama thing?
Remind me.
Vegas first line on game, Alabama by 30. No line yet on second quarter. So, and I'm getting a lot of likes on that. People, I'm telling you, people, Razorback fans, on Saturday, they had it. Now, I
agree.
assume it can be, who knows what happens in the course of athletics, things can change, people can be reconstructed, but there is a serious, pervasive feeling among what we call the hog nation that's unacceptable. We've put too much money and too much devotion into this for that kind of performance, losing by that level, in that way, to a thoroughly low mediocre team. People are ready to buy out the contract and get somebody else.
$15 million. LSU rebounded against Florida
See,
after
that's
the
the
Troy
thing.
State. But
That's
I'm not sure Alabama is the opponent you want to be walking
No,
into.
not just Alabama, but the series of opponents. Isn't Auburn right
Auburn's
after?
right after Alabama, yeah. And
Now,
they're pretty
we'll-
good this year.
Now, Coastal Carolina we may be able to stay close there. I was on my way to Howard County to speak to the Howard County Democrats. There were 100 of them, by the way, which I was surprised.
That's a pretty big number.
Stopped in, Ken folks in Dirks stopped in to pick up some garden Purple Hull peas.
Yeah.
And I walked in and had a big TV and had the game on. I got cousins there. And I got there just in time to see Austin Allen scrambling for his life, which is how he spends his day.
Well, that was
throwing
quarters,
throwing a horrible pass right to one of South Carolina's guys, and he ran back to make it 27-10. And I said, that was a $15 million interception right there. They're going to have to buy this guy out. We'll see if it's borne out. But the mood right now is strong that way.
We will keep weekly tabs on it in our
But let me say
conversations.
this. If they
Please.
beat Alabama, I think he saves his job.
Okay. Does he save his job if he
Also
beats
goes
Auburn?
in Ripley's Believe It or Not. He
Auburn?
saves. What?
What if they just play them close? What if they play Alabama
I
close?
think if they could play them within shouting distance, either of them, it would help him. It'd help rehabilitate
Well,
him.
we wish
Nobody's
the best
expecting it right now.
to the Razorback football
do.
program.
We do.
And those are young kids up there too. We do need to
I'm
keep
not
that
criticizing
in
the
mind.
young man. I'm just analyzing the. Razorback football is a political situation, and I'm analyzing
it's a
the
financial situation,
And financial,
too,
and
yeah, big
yes, and I'm analyzing the current temperament, political, cultural, athletic, and financial.
Keep up with John Brummett's tweets. At John Brummett is how you find him on Twitter, and they're worth following.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, even though I tend to repeat most of them on
Comedy
here.
value more
Right.
than anything else. So.
Right.
And you can catch him also Arkansas Online. You can catch him in the newspaper 3 days a week. Once
Online
online.
only, once
So
online, yeah.
That's good. All right, John Brummett, thank you. Good to see
Okay,
you.
Roby,
All right.
you're the man.
That's all for today's program. Thanks for watching.